I was a comedy writer for 25 years. I did not use my body.
Yeah.
Except to eat chicken and lean back and make jokes.
You shot it in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Hi, by the way. Thanks for being here.
Hi. Good to be here. I've shot 3 films in Winnipeg. Nobody 1, Nobody 2, and Normal.
How is shooting in Winnipeg in the dead of the winter?
It's fantastic. Oh, in the dead of winter. It's still fantastic.
There's a caveat when you say it's fantastic.
Because I shot in summer, too.
Yeah.
You know.
This one is the winter, though.
Yeah, this was winter. So, I mean, look, there's a lot of similarities between Winnipeg and Albuquerque, where I shot Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. These are cities that are extremely friendly to filmmaking. You can move your crew, or what we call the circus, which is all the trailers and all the trucks and all the equipment. You can move it easily around town. You know, there's lots of parking lots, there's open areas where you can plant that stuff. And the people are still welcoming, which is true in Albuquerque too. You know, some cities like New York or LA, they are just, you know, they're in the business in LA. So they're like, no, you're not shooting on my block. No.
It's not special to them.
Well, it's not special to them, that's for sure. But also they're a little acutely aware of things that sometimes go wrong on a film set or that break your house or whatever. Whatever you're shooting in can go awry. Anyway, they're not that welcoming. And it's weird, right? Because we're in the business in LA. And yet when we see those signs go up, filming this, you know, tomorrow, you're like, everyone's like, no, not in my backyard.
So I'm glad in Winnipeg they were nice to you.
But they're very friendly in Winnipeg. And not only that, Winnipeg has amazing looks, places. It's got old New York. It's got modern city. It's got suburb. It's got nice suburb. It's got older suburb. It's got, geez, every look you could want.
Did you go to Ray and Jerry's?
I didn't. What is Ray and Jerry's?
It's like this old 50s.
Geez, I was only there for almost a year.
It's like an old restaurant. It's like a restaurant there. There's like a steakhouse there, and then they have.
God,
like
I would have gone there in a second.
Gravy and shrimp cocktail. Nothing's
I would have
changed.
gone
like
there
65.
in a second.
Next time, Bob, give me a call. I'll help you out.
Yeah.
You said that with this movie Normal, you haven't seen an action movie like this in a long time. What do you mean by that?
So Derek Kolstad wrote John Wick, and he wrote Nobody Films, and he writes a lot of films. He just writes and writes and writes.
Yeah.
And he writes very simple action plots. He had shown me 3 outlines that he had for films, and this was the one I said, I want you to do this one, Normal, because the first thing in the movie Normal is, you could say, a half hour to 40 minutes of mystery, of suspense, of what's going on. Something is off. It's
You're
a small town.
Temporary sheriff who's going to this town.
I'm a fill-in sheriff.
Yeah.
I'm there because the previous sheriff died abruptly, unexpectedly. And also the town is like a lot of small towns. It's kind of beat up and a bit abandoned. But then the part that's not abandoned is really nice. Like, they somehow seem to have money flowing through this town, but why? How? There's no explanation for that. And of course, this is what I loved about this. At a certain point, this film, Normal, becomes a pure action film. The last 40 minutes are just action, action, action.
Yeah.
But until then, it's a suspense film with comedy, a lot of comedy mixed in. I don't know if you know Lake Wobegon or
the
Garrison
Prairie Home
Keillor's
Companion.
stuff. Prairie Home Companion. It's got that small town humor of the quirky small town people who are likable but a little bit crazy. And so this is why we have an amazing cast of Canadian actors, by the way.
There are a lot of Canadians in this.
Filling this town. Well, sure, we shot in Winnipeg.
I like that. I like that you had that, because I feel a kinship with people from. I mean, you're from the Midwest, right?
I am. I'm from Chicago, but I spent a lot of time in Wisconsin, and I've been asked to do a Minnesota accent, which is close to a Canadian accent. And I know there's different Canadian
Just like
accents.
an OA, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm from Newfoundland. See, I'm from the far East Coast with a whole completely different accent.
Oh, yeah.
But what we have in common, we are also considered to be really nice and friendly and sweet.
Yeah.
And I think, this is my theory on you, because you did one of the seasons of Fargo. the Nebraska,
Yeah.
even some of Saul is in the Midwest. This is in the Midwest. And you're from the Midwest. I think you, like I do, like something about going into these places where everyone seems sweet, seems nice, and showing that actually these places can be kind of weird and subversive and strange.
Sure, absolutely. I love that. Well, I'm from a town called Naperville, which is actually a pretty big town now, but it wasn't when we moved there. It was 20,000 people and a lot of farms. In fact, farms right behind my house when I moved there as a kid. And then I spent a lot of time I went to college in Carbondale, Illinois. I spent a lot of time in small towns and all through the Midwest.
And they're strange little places, but they can be, you know.
Yeah, and in Wisconsin, too, I have to say, because I think about this movie, which is set in a fictional town of Normal, Minnesota. There is a town called Normal, Illinois, and I'll bet there's a couple other Normals. But, of course, I just love the mislead of it. There's nothing normal going on in this town. It's a very strange scenario.
I'm also kind of used to you being an action star now. For people who don't know the story, can you talk a little bit about, because it was a pretty intentional decision, right? Like I after years of comedy, I want to be an action star.
So I'd been doing Better Call Saul. I was in my second or third year, and the show I knew was playing around the world. I knew that people were watching it in Italy and Russia even, and then I was on my bike ride. Every Saturday I would ride my bike in Albuquerque. There's 300 plus miles of bike trails in Albuquerque. And I would just go for hours. It was a way to de-stress, you know. I loved it. And my brother-in-law sent me a screen grab from his phone of a television set in his hotel room in China that had an ad for Better Call Saul. And I was like, wow, they're watching me in China. Holy cow. So then I'm riding my bike for hours. And I'm thinking, what movie could I do that would play around the world? Because all these audiences are watching me. And I thought, well, action plays around the world. And also, I'm an older guy. Action is something that you can do when you're older. There's something, it's okay. Like, you can't be a romantic lead. Not really. I mean, there's a lot of things you're aged out of.
Yeah, but you could still be like an older dude.
But they'll let you do that. So then I thought, well, how do they know me? They know me as Saul. Saul Goodman in Better Call Saul is a striver. He is indefatigable. He really does not quit. He's very clever. He comes up almost too clever, really. He's kind of like Tom Sawyer. He comes up with too elaborate plans for his problems, which always gets him into trouble. But he's kind of an action lead, you know. His heart is on the line, except he doesn't fight, you know. But I'd be willing to learn stage fighting. This was 8 years ago. I remember thinking, I'm in good shape. I had not yet had a heart attack, and
always a good sign. Yeah.
Maybe if I'd had that, I wouldn't have tried this.
You probably wouldn't have, because you probably would have felt a little scared to do it.
You got to be careful there. But I thought, I'm in good shape. I was a comedy writer for 25 years. I did not use my body.
Yeah.
Except to eat chicken and lean back and make jokes. But really, I hadn't used my body.
So I'm going to be an action star now.
And I thought, well, I'll put it to use before I die.
I've come to terms with the fact that you don't have an average job.
You guys having fun at the convention?
But we haven't seen you in months.
What happened to your eye?
Somebody fouled me at the game.
What game?
The one you missed.
What was the hardest part of it? What was the hardest
The training?
Yeah.
The hardest part was the embarrassment. Look, so I put this word out. I called my manager on that bike ride. I called Mark Provocero. And I said, hey, I got a crazy idea. I heard about, they're watching me in China. Do you think I could do an action movie? And I had some notions for it already, too. And I'd had 2 break-ins in my home in L.A., and I had a lot of latent feeling of anger towards the people who did that. And I thought I would love to mine that frustration and anger and play a character who has that. And he did not laugh at me, which was crazy. Like, I expected him to go, Bob, keep riding that bike.
Yeah.
Chill out.
Yeah. Go write some jokes.
Go write some jokes and go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like, okay. No, I see what you're saying. You're right. all right, well, let's put the word out. So then we found some writers, but it wasn't until we found Derek Kolstad that it clicked. And that's because Derek is a real action genre master. And everybody who had pitched me outlines, there were 2 groups that had pitched me outlines for movies, were writing movies that I would write, which were very like almost too character thick. Like you just want to get going. And you want to have a bad guy who's a big bad, almost James Bond level in the Nobody films. You want to get to that place. I mean, I think the journey of a lot of action films is you take somebody, you connect them with the lead character and the danger and the frustrations and the fear that they feel. And then you take them to a really cinematic place where this isn't real world at all. And that's the fun of it. I mean, I'm going and paying $20 to see a movie. I want to go to a place I can't see when I look around the world. Yeah. And so Derek was the one who was willing to write a story that took my regular guy character and put him in a conceptualized world with a bad guy who was magically evil. And that's what I wanted.
Yeah, and you're this relatable guy. You don't look like Sylvester Stallone.
No, I don't. And also it was important to me, and I'll tell you, I had to fight for some things. Like I had to fight for the guy in Nobody taking the garbage out. That was a scene I pitched, and it wasn't in the script. And I was like, please put that in there. He takes the garbage out, and he doesn't get out in time for the garbage to get picked up. That is just a regular, and people talk about it. They know that moment because every guy certainly, and a lot of moms probably relate to like, I missed it again.
Yeah, almost every week.
Yeah,
really, almost every
and
week.
that's just that just ties you to those people. That's a frustration that they can connect to. Now, you asked me what was the hardest part, the embarrassment. So I put the word out. We got Derek going on a script. And I started to train, and I trained for about 2 years before we made that movie. And I trained with one of the best stunt actors in the world, Daniel Bernhardt. He's been in every action film you've seen of the last 15 years. And he trained me diligently, and I'm in a stunt gym. These are huge gyms. They're set up to have more than one crew working at a time. And here I am in the corner, this guy who is a comedy writer who's got to learn the basics and just do them a couple thousand times to just get to a decent place. And that's what I'm doing. I'm in the corner just doing this basic movements over and over and over for hours, 3 days a week. And over on the other side are the best stuntmen in the world, doing flips, planning
Right, you're
scenes.
embarrassed.
And I'm just sitting here going, are they watching me? Are they laughing? Are they cringing? Are they embarrassed when I walk by? Like, oh yeah, the guy with the midlife crisis. Okay, yeah.
I bet they
Good
were
luck.
like, the guy at the gym being like, oh, look at him. He's trying his best. Good for him.
Look, it's just... You say you is expressed to some extent I'm accepted maybe as an action actor now after 3 films. And that's one of the things I really was a goal, was to do right by those guys and girls who they've devoted their lives to. They love this like I loved sketch comedy.
Yeah, you don't want to be a dilettante.
That's right.
Right.
They spend hours in the gym. They go to the gym every day.
Yeah.
They hang out there. They work out. They practice things. They've got their computers open and they're watching old scenes from movies. They're showing each other something that was shot in China last week and going, let's try to. And then they'll do that. You'll see them, watch something and go, stand up and try to do that move. And you just go, I watched that and I said, that's me when I was doing sketch comedy.
Right.
And I would not have liked it if Jason Statham went, hey, watch me, I can write sketch comedy, get out of the way.
That's you when you were listening to like Credibility Gap and Derek and Clive, like Peter Cook and Dudley Moore and Monty Python. It was like, okay, I want to do that. That's what I want.
Yeah, my whole life, from when I was about 10 years old is when I really started writing sketches.
Yeah.
And I would not have liked if a action guy walked into the writer's room and said, like, hey, calm down, I can do this.
Yeah.
You watch me.
Yeah.
And the fact that I've gotten to make 3 action films, and I hopefully have done a credible job in the acting and in the fighting department, it matters to me. I want those people to know I respect them, and the art form and craft that they've cared about.
And it is sort of invisible to me now. Like, I really do just see you. When I was watching Normal, it did just feel, I didn't think about it that much anymore.
Well, there's certain things that I know I can do,
Yeah.
and I can do them credibly, but there are things I can't do. I can't do high kicks. There's a lot of moves that these pros do that I'd never even try. Although I asked to do one thing and they wouldn't let me
What's
do
that? What do you want to do?
it. I wanted to do the Bruce Lee 1-inch punch.
Oh, the punch where you go.
Where you right up to the
Yeah.
guy and you,
Yeah, yeah.
You it starts at your feet, by the way.
Yeah.
And they were like, "No, you're not doing that."
What I'm struck by is that you were having this moment where Saul was so big that you were in China, and you were being watched all over the world. Because when I was researching for this interview and I was reading about you, it doesn't take long for you to get into your time in Second City and you're in Chicago, and you're working with Del Close, for people who don't know, is a sort of visionary improviser and also sort of like philosopher around improvisation. And he says this thing that's, I belong in struggling organizations, and you say in your book, that resonates with me. Here you are, this the big star now, and you're trying to you're capitalizing on it. What can I do more with this? Can you bring me back there to who you were then? Like someone saying, "I belong in struggling organizations," and you going, "Yeah, that's it. That's for me."
So, Del, this incident where I met Del Close, a famous acting guru, teacher, and philosopher, as you point out, it was just happenstance, and it was really a remarkable thing. And Del is sort of a contemporary of Keith Johnstone. Do you know who Keith is?
No.
Well, Keith is an amazing improvisation teacher who lived in Calgary.
Oh, wow. Canadian.
Until he passed away. Well, he's British. I
But
don't know if
lived in
he had
Calgary.
Canadian
Yeah,
citizenship.
sure.
I think he probably did. And he
Right.
ran the Loose Moose Theater there
Right.
in Calgary.
Right.
I knew that I loved Second City, and I knew that I loved sketch comedy, and I was in college, and I was starting to get the inklings that maybe I should try to make that a career. And I went to Chicago. I had a comedy radio show, and I did live performance with my friends, but it took a long time for me to even think the thought, maybe this is what a pro does, what I'm doing every week. It's a common thing when you don't grow up near Hollywood or you don't have anyone in your life who has done anything in entertainment. To imagine that you could do that is kind of a challenging leap.
A pipe dream. I understand it.
Yeah,
sure.
so I had that thought. I went to Chicago. I was interviewing someone at Second City, Joyce Sloan, the den mother of Second City, and I had wandered down the street I wanted to get a book on improvisation and try to learn it at college with my friends. And I had 2 books in my hand. I had Viola Spolin's book, which is a big Bible of improvisational games. And I had Keith Johnstone's thin book called Impro, great book, still great book, that sort of tells his personal story and talks about games and different improvisational theories. I remember thinking, I'm going to get the smaller book that reads more personal. And then Del walked in, this guy whose name I had seen on the program at Second City, and he's talking to the clerk at the counter, and she's calling him Del and Del and Del. And I go, is that Del Close? I mean, who has the name Del?
Yeah.
And I went and talked to him, and I said, can I interview you? And he was in a juncture in his life at that moment. He had quit Second City the day before. Now, he had quit Second City numerous times in the 20 years before.
Yeah.
He struggled with addiction and all kinds of things, but he had quit drugs and he had quit Second City. Is marijuana a drug?
Yeah.
Okay, so he hadn't quit all drugs.
Yeah. It's legal in Canada, but I feel like it still counts, I think.
Quit
Yeah.
challenging hard drugs.
However, if you say I'm on drugs, I don't think of marijuana. He has trouble with drugs, I don't think of marijuana.
So
I don't think about that.
He was at a juncture in his life, and I sat down and he talked for 2 hours and he rambled and rambled, and it was so inspiring to me. And what was inspiring about it was he'd had such an interesting life. And I thought, wow, I want that. I want that. And he did say I belong in struggling organizations to me. He was talking about SNL in Second City. He had worked at Saturday Night Live as an acting coach, and because they couldn't get that cast to gel at the time. And then he had been at Second City, and it had made its way to what it is, a very popular, renowned place at that point. And he felt like, I got to start again. And I feel that way. I feel like I do best when it's like a little bit harder than I want it to be.
Right, I understand. Going back to the idea of an action star, you could have just continued to make comedy. You could have just continued to make Better Call Saul style stuff. But you want there to be a struggle. You want there to be something you're up against.
You know, I'm going to say if there's a hint of embarrassment to it, like you could embarrass yourself here, that's part of it too. Is like, I know I'm doing something hard if I suspect I might just make a real ass of myself and get laughed at by everyone, not in the way I want to.
Do you ever get laughed at by everyone?
Well, I have been laughed at by everyone intentionally, which is great.
Sure. But you ever hear that story
different.
about Jay Leno? He used to want to go on after Richard Pryor at the Comedy Store.
Oh, yeah?
And he would say, they would say, why? He said, because no one wanted to go on after him because he was so funny. Yeah. But I went up and I bombed. And no one laughed. I would realize it's not so bad. I can handle it.
Absolutely. And I've
Norm
had
Macdonald said the same thing, right? Like
I've had moments in my life where that was absolutely the case, and it's a strange thought that comes to you in the case of those two guys you just described, maybe beforehand, but for me, more often has come afterwards, where I find the thing didn't work out, and maybe I'm in some bit of a emotional spot, and I realize, well, I'm still me. I still have whatever talents I started with, and I have the ability to work hard. So wake up tomorrow. Let's go to work. It's okay. You can't take me away from me. However embarrassed I am, or however this thing fell flat, whatever it is I did, and that's been a great lesson. Yeah. So I think that feeling. That I could embarrass myself is kind of key to this.
Right. I'm really interested in that embracing of embarrassment.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in that in the context of this guy, Ulysses.
Yeah.
Thank you. In Normal.
Yeah, you did that great.
Thanks, Bob. I'm interested in the context of Saul in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. You said you love playing a person who carries their pain around but doesn't completely succumb to it and instead uses it as fuel. Yeah. And it's hard not to have that in my mind when you're talking about being motivated by embarrassment.
Yeah.
What's going on? Why does that resonate with you personally?
Wow. What a profound... I said that? And you ID'd that? You nailed it, man. Gee whiz. Well, you're going to dig into some pretty heavy stuff. Look, I was raised Catholic.
Me too.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Very strict. Mm-hmm. Very, nuns and all that. Did you go to every holy day of obligation when you were a kid? Did you go to church on Halloween?
No, I went on like Pentecost though, and we did the Stations of the Cross on Good Friday in the morning, and we went and we didn't eat,
We used to go on Halloween or the day before. I remember going in my Halloween costume once or twice when All Souls Day fell just on that. Mm-hmm. And I would have to say that the deeply implanted shame and embarrassment at being alive that is somewhat of the DNA of Catholicism that I was taught is just a steady part of me that I'll have to find some good value to and do try to find. And one of the things is I think I don't think I'm that different from lots of people who carry
some self-criticism, carry shame.
Yeah, a kind of a deeper kind of a shame. I do think that's kind of embedded in me, and I find a way to bring it to these parts that I play. Look, they are all pretty much Catholic guys that I play.
Yeah, carrying around this burden, but trying to use it and trying to get through the day and use it.
Yeah, try to find some value to that energy that feels negative inside you.
Yeah, you might say some
Feels
people
burdensome.
some people become a radio host when they talk to people about
Yeah,
these things.
there you go.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Hey, man, good talking to you.